going to talk about technology integration and the management strategies that you can use with laptops, mobile devices, and tablets. First off, for any of these, you need to set up a policy that the parents and the students understand and are able to actually see. They have a copy of it so they can read it and they can always keep it on file. Next, you need to make sure that you understand how your school is set up as far as internet, and if it's going to be possible for your school to support all the students on the internet at the same time, or if you need to just stagger it out and have different groups. So first, let's talk about mobile devices. Now, whether it's a smartphone or the phones that are like this, the really old-aged phones, there's always a way to use them in your classroom. You can use them for polling, to record the lessons. Teachers can also use them for students to look things up if they don't have a computer, or if it's just easier for them to do that, they can use it to look stuff up. They can also use it with QR codes. You can take pictures of QR codes and the students will be able to go to that site straight away without having to type it into a search bar and remember everything that they have to in order to make it to the right address. QR codes make it a little easier. So our cell phones make it a little easier. Now, as far as management strategies, there was one strategy that I had read about that was the traffic light strategy. And teachers can use this with their students. First, they have to talk about it and they have to establish what each light means and set up consequences for if the students do not adapt to these and abide by these rules. So for a red light, if students, if they're into a part of the lesson where they don't need their tablets or their cell phones or even laptops, for their cell phones they can put them face down on the corner of their desk. The teacher can also set up a certain place for the cell phones to go during class when they're not using, as kind of to avoid the temptation that many students might have. Also, if a student sees another student using their cell phones when they're not supposed to be, they can politely remind them of the rules, and if they don't heed that reminder, then the student should come to the teacher about it. Next, we have the yellow light, which means that the cell phone should be used only for educational purposes. And this means that they're not necessarily being used in the classroom or for a particular assignment, but they can be used to enhance the learning, but it has to be educational. And it has to be on topic to what they're doing or what they're studying. Next and last is the green light. This means that all students must have their cell phones out because they're fixing to use them in the lesson, and the students will need them, such as for things like polling, which eliminates the possibility of students getting really shy or really self-conscious of their answers, and it allows everybody to answer anonymously, and it gets more student interaction in, and the teacher is able to see exactly where he or she needs to work on with their students in the lesson and what the students get and where she can move on to. Alright, next we're going to talk about tablets. And traditionally tablets were used to replace books. Now, tablets can be used for different things. You have different types of tablets, such as your iPads, your Kindles. Primarily, iPads are used in the classrooms. However, I've never seen Kindles used, but they could be. The main problem, or the main thing you need to focus on first with tablets, is the fact of your policies. You need to set those up as well as with all the other devices. But you also need to do like a tutorial for the students. That way they know exactly how to use the tablets and how you're going to use them in your classroom this year. First, before you can teach your students how to use these, you need to know how to use them. You need to know how to use each of the apps that you will have, and you need to be able to teach your students how to use them. Now, with your apps that you will download for your classroom, it's great to have things that are like math games or language arts games, anything that enhances the learning of the students or refreshes their learning. But you also need to have apps where the students can create things. Like in one of my other classes, we had to use programming software, and I know there are apps that are for programming. Scratch, I don't think it's an app, but it is a website that the students can use, and there are different apps that they can use for this. So with tablets, just make sure the students know how to use them, when they're supposed to use them. You can also use the traffic light approach for your tablets as well, meaning, the students know when they can use them, when they can only use them for educational purposes, and when they have to use them. Next, let's talk about laptops. First off, it is a good thing to have like a binder with troubleshoot issues or video tutorials, anything that can help your students remember how to access the laptop and how to use the tools that you want them to use. One of the websites that I would suggest using in your classroom and maybe setting it as a home page for your laptop would be the Subalu website. And on this website you can have the different websites that the students will be using on a daily basis, as well as any other type of issues such as pop-ups. You can have a quick little note in your binder on how to do pop-ups. Also, in your classrooms, you need to set up a laptop-free zone. That way, students know that they cannot use their laptops, so they have to keep them closed. They have to, and they have to focus on work. Students are not allowed to use laptops in certain areas. You can set these up as reading areas or anything that the students shouldn't have their laptops at. You can have laptop specific areas to cut down on the laptop free zones. Also, you may also use the traffic light approach for your laptops as well. However, it would be easier to use the traffic light approach for your devices and your tablets, because laptops can be kind of bulky. and your tablets and your devices are much easier to transport. Lastly, I would like to emphasize the use of you in your classroom. Granted, we've talked about the best practices and what you can do for your students to learn best in these situations and how to utilize the technology that you have. But as the teacher, to avoid problems, you need to be up and active in the classroom. You need to be using your eyes and your ears and your observation skills to observe what your students are doing with their technology and to help them out in any way they can. So you don't need to be sitting behind your desk and not doing anything. You need to be out there in the classroom helping your students, observing your students. That way you can make sure that they are utilizing the technology in an educational and helpful way and not just sitting there playing around on it.